take it away, Rory. Thanks for joining and presenting with us today.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Yeah, quite exciting to be kicking off Global Azure 2025 in Auckland. So my name's Rory. I'm a Microsoft MVP. I'm involved in Microsoft Identity as a consultant. I work for myself and do Entra ID, Azure AD B2C, and Entra External ID, which is what I'm going to be talking about today. And you've all heard of death by PowerPoint. Well, we're not going to have that today because I don't have a single slide. So we are just going to do one long demo, and hopefully I've appeased the demo gods. So what is external ID? It's basically, if you imagine a company like the warehouse, they will have employees, and the employees use Entra ID, and that gives them access to things like Teams and SharePoint and Office 365 and all that good stuff. But for the 2 million customers that are out there, they're certainly not going to buy licenses for all those people. So that's where CIAM comes in, Customer Identity and Access Management. So CIAM is obviously massively scalable. In the B2C world, Real Madrid is a good poster child. They've got 400 million users. So CIAM really, you need to be able to scale up massively. And it basically is about self-service, because you don't want your warehouse 2 million people to be finding the help desk. So self-service sign up, self-service password reset. You can basically sign on, get the app, get to e-commerce, sign out. Maybe you only use it once or twice a year. So it's a very different kind of environment to the people who actually work for the warehouse. So if we look at the older product, Azure AD B2C, it was built outside of Azure for various reasons, which meant that all the nice features in Entra weren't really available. And every time they wanted to do something, you had to port the product over. So in Entra External ID, what they've done is they've built it inside of Entra ID. So you can see there's a whole lot of Entra ID stuff here. So what that means is that, for example, something like groups weren't really handled in B2C. You had to use Graph API to go and get the stuff out of Entra. But in Entra External, because it's part of Azure, groups are now a first-class citizen, which is a huge change. And that makes it so much easier to manage the whole thing. So if we go down to external IDs, we've got an overview. All right, and we see here getting started with external IDs. See how you want to collaborate. So if I just go, sorry, this is what I'm looking for. Okay, so we can set up collaboration, identity providers, guest users, all that good stuff, and it's all going to be there. So we can, sorry, I'm just looking for the screen, which is not around. Just hang 10. Right, so here we've got try the getting started guide. So if you've never used Entra External ID ever, and you really want to kind of get the sense of the flavor, so you start the guide. You can then, how do you want to sign in? You could do email and password, or email and one-time password. So we select email and password. You can put a logo on the screen. You can change the color. You can decide if it's center aligned or right aligned. So we'll click continue. So now what it's going to do is it's going to build a whole lot of stuff in the back end for you. It's going to build an app registration. It's going to build a user flow. It's going to set up your GitHub repo that you can download for the sample that you choose. So basically, you don't have to do anything. All you do is you click the buttons, it'll set it up. We just have to wait for it to go. Cool, so continue. Now it kind of asks you, well, what kind of app do you want? Do you want SPA or web or desktop or mobile app with native auth. So we'll just go with the web. And then it says, what kind of language you want? Node, ASP.NET Core, Java, Python, Django. We'll say, well, ASP.NET Core. And then it'll say, okay, go and download this app. And the nice thing about this app is pre-configured for the app registration and the user flow that it's just created for you. So you don't have to go into app settings and try and figure out what bits of configuration go where. You download the file, you can do .NET Run, you can go and visit the host, and you're away. All right, and then continue says, well done, you set it up. So I already have, I just go here. I already downloaded the sample and set it all up for you. And so I didn't have to do any setup. So this is the authority that's set up for me. This is the client ID that's set up for me. So all I have to do now is run this. And by the way, I'm going to be deleting this after the session. So you know, all the secrets and that is shared, they're all going. So if I just go run now, it starts up. So you can imagine that this is now my warehouse e-commerce app. It goes to localhost 7274, as you saw. Sign into my account. All right, so this is the background that you saw. So, all right, I've already got my user. So I sign into demo user. It wants my password. I don't want to stay signed in. And basically, this is configured just to return the token to me. So here's the token that would be returned to the app, and you can set up what fields you want in the app. So you can see it is really easy, right? So you didn't have to know anything about external ID. All you needed to know was, sorry, not that. All you needed to know was, where is this? Where's that page? Sorry, this page, yeah. Okay, so you saw the app, you saw it running, you didn't have to do any configuration. If we go and now look at app registrations, you'll see that it's made the quick start application for you. So this is what it was doing while it was running, the quick start application. If we go and have a look at it, you'll see that in terms of authentication, it's basically set up some redirect URIs for you. It's basically set up grants. It's set up account types, API permissions. It's set up offline access and OpenID for you. It's granted admin consent for you. So it's basically set everything up and you're pretty much away to go. If you want to use setting up for stuff that's returned, you can set that up here. If you've got APIs that you know you definitely have, if you're in e-commerce, you can set the APIs up here and the API and expose the APIs here. So basically, you're pretty much good to go. Now we have user flows. So user flows are the application is the type of thing you're going to be using. The user flow is how you authenticate. So if we look at this user flow, which is one of the ones that are automatically created for us, you will see that it is set up for, it's set up for email and password. We've got user attributes, stuff that's going to be passed around and collected. We can select the stuff we want there. We can have custom authentication extensions. So what you can do here is you can run this extension. So this flow will call an API. So you would call an API before collecting information. or when the user submits the tokens. And you can configure the API to go and look at a database to see if that user is allowed to enter. You can go and get other information from other databases, and you can augment the token with that stuff. You can do some stuff in page layouts. So you can go into the app here and configure the order of attributes that are collected, and you can set up your languages. So there's a whole lot of languages here. If you want to do international stuff, you can see there's a whole pile of stuff. And you can select your identity providers. So we've got a choice of email with password and email with one. We chose email with password. So you can set up how the flow works and how it all fits together. Okay. In terms of identity providers, we have some that are pre-built. So you can configure or federate with Microsoft Entra ID. And that's kind of like a guest account. You've got the email one-time passcode. You can do a Microsoft account. You can set up configurations with Google or Facebook or Apple all out of the box. And there's very good documentation on how you do that. Or you can do a custom one. So this is stuff that you add. So this could be OpenID Connect, SAML, or WS Federation. If I do an add new, it could be OpenID or SAML. So you pick which protocol you want. This is another identity provider called Kindy. And you can configure it all here, but I'm not going to show you that because there's some confidential stuff in there. So you can build up a whole range of different hosts that you can federate against. So if I go down to user flows and I select MFA, which is just one of my many user flows, you will see here that it's added Kindy. So you can run the user flow from within the portal. This is exactly the same as if you were using an app. It's kind of like a test harness. It just means that you don't have to connect up thousands of apps to the user flow. In terms of applications, this is where you hook up the applications that are going to use that user flow. Many applications can use one user flow, but the reverse isn't true. So in B2C, you would have a OpenID Connect parameter where it would say P equals policy. You don't need that anymore. You don't specifically need to put it into the request because we've got this mapping here. So we can run the user flow from here, which is kind of like, as I said, a test harness. We can select which endpoint we want. So I just want to return the token. So when I run the user flow, you'll see that's the branding that we saw in the beginning. I can do a local account here, or I can sign in with Kindy. So if I click that button, it then takes me to Kindy, and I can then log in with my external IDP. So that's quite a useful feature, and I do quite a lot of federation with people to just tie up all kinds of flows. Company branding, we've got basically you can edit the page, so you can have a fave icon, you can set it up, a background image, you can see that's where that image comes from. You can select your page color. You can decide, do you want some headers? Do you want some footers? You can have custom CSS. You can then go to the headers and do logos, same with the footers. You can do privacy and cookie URLs. You have terms of use URLs, so you can click on them and then you go to the sign-in form and you can put in hints and text and you can set up information about self-service passwords. So there's a whole lot of stuff you can do with the branding. So if I go back to user flows and I just want to do MFA again, and we just run this. And I'll just set it up to return the JWT. Okay, so if I run the user flow. Right, so here you see no account, create one. So if I'm not a user in B2C, I can sign up here. I can put in my email. It will ask me for my password, get an OTP to confirm, and it would ask me for some attributes, and then that account is going to be in B2C. So this is self-service sign up. So again, you don't have to phone the help desk. If I just go like this, next. Right, so you've got forgot password, and now it's going to, okay, this is not a valid email address, but it sends a code. You take your code and you put it in there, and then you can reset your password. So self-service password reset, self-service sign up. Basically, everything that you want is there, okay, for the self-service. I'm just conscious of time. I need to go to down here, protection. So you can see all of this good stuff here, which wasn't in B2C, is now, a lot of this is now available to you because it's inside of Entra. So if we go to conditional access, so conditional access is a way of controlling who can access your app. You can say it's got to be people with this kind of role, or people who are in New Zealand, or people in New Zealand don't have to do MFA. People in Australia do have to do MFA. People in Russia, we don't let them in at all. Okay. And I don't quite, for some reason, this just takes forever. So if we go to policies, I can see I've created one user policy down here, which is called Demo MFA. Let's just wait for it to come up. All right, so you can say this only applies to certain users. So I've applied it to Demo MFA user. You can say it's targeted to resources. So I've selected only the MFA application, and you can select what kind of grants you've got. And so I've said you require multi-factor. So there's a whole lot of stuff that you can do in conditional access around controlling who is going to access that application. And to make sure you don't lock the entire company out by putting something in that locks out all users, you can run it in report only. So you can run it, look at the reports, see who's in, who's out, and instead of like just accidentally locking out the whole company, which is probably not a good idea. So we go back to user flows and we look at MFA. I'm looking at that. I've got MFA here. I then go and do a run user flow. And make sure that it's going to return the token. Yep, and then I run it. And we just get the name of my user. So remember, we configured it for a specific user. It's demo MFA user. Z. Yep, it's good. Do my password. Right, and so now it's saying, right, you have to have MFA, so please put in your phone number, please proof up. And then the next time you come, it'll say, we know about this phone. We're going to send you an OTP and confirm it, but I'm not entering my phone number on the screen. So you can see that the MFA works really nicely. We've looked at custom auth extensions. A lot of this stuff is really B2B stuff and not B2C stuff. Just looking at the time. So now what I want to show you is, that's kind of like a really quick tour of everything you can do there. What I want to show you now is a thing called native auth, which is this one, right? So if you've ever used ADFS, Azure AD, Entra ID, Azure AD B2C, Microsoft give you the login page, right? You cannot control the login page. You get a Microsoft page as a web view. Now, that worked fine in the good old days before mobile, but when mobile came along and you're doing native mobile development, you suddenly see a web view pop up and it breaks the whole flow and it's crap. So Entra External ID supports a native auth. In other words, auth by API. There is no web flow. So if we look at this, let's hope this works. So basically, I'm setting up my client ID, challenge type. This is my user. So the user is in there. I click send. And it sends a continuation token. Now I've configured Postman to take that and pass it into the next flow. So the next flow is a challenge. And you can see I'm saying take the continuation token for the previous one, put it in, client ID, challenge type. I send it. It gives me a new continuation token. So each time the continuation token changes, then I go to the third step where I basically put in client ID, password. So this is the password for the user, the grant type, I run that. And you can see that I get an access token, a refresh token, and an ID token. So I have done authentication with no web view at all. And that is really, really neat. It doesn't only apply to mobile. You can also do it for a web application. And that is pretty cool stuff. So if I just go back here, all right, I just want to show you some other stuff quickly because I've only got a few minutes left. There is a demo site called Woodruff Groceries, which is built on Entra External ID. And you can go here and select the use case. And you can see there's a whole ton of use cases. So pre-populate, validate, modify, edit, delete, disable, MFA, step-up authentication. And you can basically go and look at all of this good stuff. And if you click on one of them, it goes through a whole spiel about it. You can start the use case on their tenant. And the really nice part is it then tells you, how did we actually get this to work? So then there's a whole kind of, this is how we got it to work if you want to use it. So I really, if you're interested in external ID, go and have a look at this and play around with the user flows. Now, in terms of slides, if you just Google Rory Braybrook presentation, it'll bring you to my presentations on GitHub. Here is a talk that I gave to the reactor in Sydney, and it does have PowerPoint and it's got a whole lot of references at the end. So if you're interested, that is where you can go and have a look. I also, over here, we have samples and guides for integrating apps with external ID. You've got the SPAs, you've got the web apps. Okay, these are all GitHub samples. These samples are not pre-configured, right? If you want pre-configured samples, you've got to go through that startup flow that I showed you at the beginning. That I've got the whole shoot here. And the last thing that I want to show you in the 30 seconds I have left is this is my blog, the new control plane. And there's over 250 articles about identity. And this blog, this one here, it shows you an interesting scenario where you've got a CIAM app. All right, you go to B2C, you can change the APIs of B2C through an Azure function. So you're running a custom policy in B2C, but you are writing the user objects to CIAM. So you can mix and match between B2C and Entra External ID, and then at some point when you want to migrate, the data is already over here. And we're on time, so hopefully they gave you some kind of overview. Pricing wise, it is free for the first 50,000 users. So for New Zealand, most companies don't have 50,000 users. So basically, make a tenant, play around, and yeah, it's really useful. Are there any questions?
No questions have come in yet. So one of the questions that I have, for example, is feature parity between Entra ID, external, and B2C or B2B. What's the feature parity like with Entra ID external now? I haven't touched it in a while, so it must have come a long way, right? It should almost be ready for. Where would you use one over the other, I guess is the question.
So B2C does have one big advantage, and that is that it uses custom policies. And so custom policies give you ways of doing workflows. And so you can have a whole workflow around your CIAM. That isn't in Entra External ID, and I don't think it ever will be. So it's kind of a different way of looking at it. Mm-hmm. In terms of parity, it's getting there. So you can't use Microsoft Authenticator yet. You can't use SMS. That is all definitely in the pipeline. Passkeys is not something that you can use in B2C, and you're never going to be able to use it in B2C because it's feature complete. So it's not completely feature complete at the moment, but it will be over time. There's new stuff coming in, and so there's two strands: one putting all the new stuff in, and the one moving over parity. But the other thing is that obviously a lot of people are interested in some kind of migration utility that Microsoft has said they are going to provide to get people across to Entra External, but there aren't any details about the migration. Another thing that is quite timeless to talk about right now is that on the 1st of May, so that was 10 days ago, Microsoft turned off the ability to buy B2C. So if you've never used B2C, you can't create a B2C tenant anymore. If you have an existing B2C tenant, you're good. You can go and create as many new ones as you want. But in terms of new people, you don't have a choice anymore because it's turned off.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much for coming and presenting to us today, Rory.
No worries, and enjoy the rest of the day and have fun.